Hello again, and welcome back to another episode 5 of Shower Dialogues. And today we have, as usual, a very special guest, special to the market and special to myself. He's Dr. Mohammed Al-Humaigani. Dr. Mohammed, can you please give a quick intro about yourself?
Thank you so much, Mr. Waleed. It is a pleasure to join Shower Dialogues. I truly appreciate this kind of invitation and the opportunity to be part of such a valuable platform for discussion and exchange of ideas. I wish you and your team continued success in hosting impactful and inspiring conversations. My name is Mohammed Al-Humaigani, a senior researcher and practitioner working at the intersection of sustainability, resilience, climate change, and the built environment. My journey has moved across both academia and professional practice, which has given me the opportunity to work on real construction and sustainability challenges while also developing research that addresses the long-term environmental and infrastructure risks. So over the years, I have been involved in areas such as sustainable construction, life cycle thinking, low carbon materials, resilience of infrastructure systems, and sustainability frameworks, including the Global Sustainability Action System, GSAS.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Muhammad. And that takes me to my first question. And everyone talks about the gap between the academia and the practical work or practical world. There is a gap. No one can deny this. But how can we, from your experience, because you have experience in both, in practical life and in academia as well, how can we bridge such gap, and how can we produce a research-driven climate change and sustainability solutions?
Thank you so much, Mr. Wade. This is very important question. In my opinion, the gap exists for several reasons between the academia and industry. So the first one is that academia and industry often operate under very different incentives. So the motivators or the drivers are different. Researchers are usually focused on innovation, rigor, and long-term impact, while industry is driven by cost, speed, and risk reduction, and sometimes maybe immediate project delivery. So even when a research outcome is technically strong, it may not be adopted if it seems too complex or too expensive or to be inefficiently tested for real project conditions. Second is that there is often communication gap between both sectors. So research findings are not always translated into formats that practitioners can directly use.
Mhm.
Or so many contractors, consultants, and project managers need clear guidance, benchmarks, pilot evidence, and implementation roadmap rather than only technical publications, which is the
Mhm.
case in research. The third one is the industry that in nature is cautious. So construction is risk averse sector. So
Yeah.
research should, or I mean, people prefer broken materials. Okay, this is in the industry area. Familiar methods and compliance-based processes, especially when the projects are large, time-sensitive, or linked to critical infrastructure. So this is the opposite to the research. To improve this, in my opinion, is that
Mhm.
we need stronger collaboration
Mhm.
between both sectors from the beginning. Research
Mhm.
should be co-developed with
Mhm.
industry, regulators, and clients so that solutions respond to real constraints. We also need demonstration projects, field validation, updated standards, and procurement systems that reward innovation rather than simply lowest the cost. Okay,
Yeah.
so the real solution is not just producing more publication, but producing research that is practical, tested, and aligned with market reality.
Hmm. Okay. Why those materials are not widely spread or widely used, especially in our MENA region, the Middle East region? It's there. Some of the companies are adopting such solutions. Some of the, let's say, governmental entities are very excited to adopt such solutions, but still we are not reaching the point that we desire or we need to reach. Why?
This is very important question, by the way, and we can see the world is evolving now with the green materials, sustainable material development, and so on. but maybe the less use of such materials is because of some barriers. So I can just summarize these barriers that one of the major barriers is the cost perception. So even when the long-term value is strong, many stakeholders still focus on upfront cost rather than life cycle benefits.
Mhm.
Another barrier is technical confidence among in the industry. So project teams want assurance that these materials will perform reliably under local conditions, especially in harsh climates such as the GCC, where heat, salinity, and durability are major concerns. So there is also regulatory and market barrier. So standards, specifications, and tendering systems in each country are often still based on the conventional materials, which makes
Mm.
innovation harder to approve. In addition to supply chains for alternative materials are not always mature enough to support large-scale implementations
Sure.
consistently.
Almost everyone in the field now are talking about the two terms, sustainability versus resilience. I need to know what are the main differences between sustainability and resilience, and is there a way that we can combine both together in one project? For example, if we are starting a project now and we need to target both, what are the best ways to target both?
Thank you, Mr. Wade, for this important question. I received this question many, many times, and exactly the people are mixing between sustainability and resilience. So, generally speaking, we can agree that sustainability and resilience are closely related. Okay,
Yeah.
but at the same time, they are not the same. So, the definition of each of these terms exactly will let us know what each of these terms does. So sustainability is mainly about reducing long-term environmental, social, and economic burdens.
Mhm.
It asks how we can meet the present needs without compromising future generations to meet their own needs. And this is basically the definition of the UNFCCC for sustainability. On the other hand, resilience is about ability of systems to absorb shocks, adapt to change, and recover from disruption. So they complement each other. In the built environment context, a sustainable project may reduce emissions, conserve water, and improve resource efficiency, while a resilient project may be able to withstand extreme heat, flooding, supply disruptions, power failures, or other shocks that could be generated due to the climate change or maybe due to man-made. So
Mhm.
ideally, projects uh, should achieve both. This is the ideal project if we take an example.
Mhm.
So, but sometimes the balance is not automatic between both, between sustainability and resilience. So, a solution that is highly efficient under normal conditions may not necessarily be robust under stress, and
Mhm.
vice versa. So, it
Mhm.
might not be sustainable under stress, or might not be robust under, for example, sustainable scenario. So in regions facing climate extremes such as the GCC, this balance becomes specifically important. So
Mhm.
we also, we cannot think only about efficiency of resources that are used in these projects,
Yeah.
or only about environmental ratings of these projects, but we must also ask whether our buildings, infrastructure systems, urban systems, and can continue functioning under uncertainty,
Mhm.
regardless the type of uncertainty. That means integrating climate adaptation, which is basically resilience, material durability, redundancy, flexibility, and risk-informed planning into sustainability strategies, which includes the minimization of the consumption of natural resources, is critical. So, in simple terms,
Mm.
sustainability helps us reduce harm over time. Okay,
Okay.
which we call it environmental impact. While resilience helps us survive and adapt under pressure, which is also called adaptation. So
Mm.
future projects must be designed with both lenses together, and this is basically the overall view about both terms.
So to simplify this, and to make it simple as much as we can, that a sustainable project does not mean necessarily to be a resilient project, and vice versa.
Exactly.
Mm,
Unless if you consider both requirements of both, of both
mm,
terms.
mm, mm.
That
Talking
takes me to
about the sustainability rating systems, and there are some, let's say, criticism about the rating systems, as it's just a list or checklist, compliance checklist. However, the sustainability rating systems should be a performance-based systems that makes a real impact on ground. Why we are having such contradiction and how we can overcome it.
Thank you, Mr. Wade, for this important question. I do agree with you that the majority of the rating systems initiated with the checklist,
Mhm.
compliance checklist in the beginning.
Mhm.
And that was like a good start for any system to start, like, for example, simple, then advanced over time. So, exactly in the region, we can see there are a couple of systems that exactly now deployed either in Qatar, in Saudi Arabia, in United Arab Emirates, and so on.
Yeah.
And where they exactly implement these systems regardless the type of or the type of the methodology. Um, Based on my experience, I do agree with you that the converting the checklist into performance based is very important, and this is exactly what we have experienced with some systems that they already shifted from the checklist to the performance based system because they found that the checklist is not anymore, maybe practical. Okay, those systems started in the beginning with the checklist, so they start building capacities among the developers, among the contractors, consultants, and other practitioners in the construction industry. So the capacity built over time, and then those systems start like driving or upgrading from the subjective based into performance based.
Mhm.
So it is very important exactly that that shift was needed,
Mhm.
is not optional, is not a luxury, it is needed. So
Mhm.
it's necessity. So so this is what we have defined that this is the next stage, and which was in the past few years. So moving from checklist achievement to actual performance verification includes some of these, includes of some performance-based criteria that exactly built based on some calculations, some of the simulations, some modeling, and so on. So projects exactly when assessed for the performance based, they shift from focusing on documentations and point collections to the real environmental outcomes during the operation or construction stages. So exactly you can determine how these practices that you already included for sustainability or you considered during the design exactly reflected in the performance of that project during the operation stage. So I believe that the performance-based systems are exactly the best way and the best methodology to be utilized. So
Mm.
any system in the region is still working on the compliance checklist. It could be considered like the lagging behind. So it will not exactly achieve that goals or that objectives, or we can say scenarios that it exactly expected if compared to other systems.
Sure.
I could add here something that engineer, if you allow me, that um, uh, one of the directions of this performance system is the integration of different criteria or different credits or different, we can say, parameters of the assessment.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I believe that the green building standard should connect more strongly with life cycle thinking, which is one of the
Oh.
hot topics now worldwide. And
Mhm.
carbon accounting, exactly because we care about the environment impact. And one of the environment impact, we can say, parameters is the carbon emissions, as well as the climate risk considerations, which is part of the resilience part. So in the GCC context, if we talk about our region, they should also reflect regional realities such as cooling demand, because this is hot area and about 70 to 80% of the energy consumption is by air cooling systems. Also, the water scarcity, this is desert, and we rely mainly on the desalination. About the extreme heat, which we are living in the hottest area in the world, and the material durability, because we lack many of the virgin, I can say, or resources of the materials. So, I would say that the future of green building standards in the GCC is not to abandon the framework itself, but
Mhm.
to make it more evidence-based, performance-driven, and outcome-oriented. Historically, if we go back to the systems that have been developed in the region, in the GCC region, including Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, we can see that the systems in the initial stage were developed just exactly to push the market to be sustainable and to push the construction industry. So the requirements at that stage were as minimum as possible. So they were most of the criteria and the credits, depending on the like compliance checklist to make it much easier and exactly to drive the market. So building capacity, the dissemination of the awareness, and so on. But over the time, we can see that most of these rating systems have been improved. Okay, and the new methodologies have been introduced to assess those credits and criteria. So the performance-based subject or methodology have been introduced to many criteria, including the calculations or the assessment of the energy consumption, the water consumption, the air quality in the doors, and there may be some for example, for the urban connectivity and so on. I believe that the subjective part or the compliance checklist remains for some other criteria that exactly not easy to assess at that stage. Shifting from or moving from the compliance checklist to the performance-based methodology exactly is the best way, and this is what I have experienced in the systems like GSAS, the one I was serving for, and we worked a lot on exactly how to shift many criteria from the compliance checklist to the performance base. This actually is really helpful and really needed for the project, exactly to determine how these projects, after being completed, how are they, I mean, operated, or what exactly impact have been reduced due to these practices. So I believe that the green building rate, those who haven't been, for example, or have not introduced this kind of methodology, they need to strengthen the performance-based pathways, which means the deeper integration of post-occupancy evaluation, operational energy and water data, indoor environmental quality monitoring, and verification of real construction practices on site. So, which also means rewarding innovation, local adaptation, and long-term resilience rather than relying mainly on standard compliance measures. And uh, another important direction is the integration.
Mhm.
Integration among different credits or different criteria, because building rating systems should connect more strongly with life cycle thinking, with
Mhm.
carbon accounting, climate risk considerations, and especially for the GCC, they should also reflect regional realities such as cooling demand, water scarcity, extreme heat, and material durability.
Okay, that takes me to the next question, talking about the sustainability systems in Qatar. Construction management sustainability rating systems, which you have developed yourself. You were one of the team who developed such systems. Why we are not seeing such similar experiences in other countries around the region? It was a leading experience in construction management, especially what relates to the Qatar 2022. Why we are not seeing similar? As we said, the knowledge is there, but the way of implementation is different. What are the main barriers that prevent entities to develop such systems?
Exactly. I think this is driven by a couple of reasons. One of them, if you see, for example, historically, how these green building standards been developed, the focus was basically on the design of the urban systems, including buildings, infrastructure, and so on. So the rating system focused on these elements, which exactly connects the design of that project to the implementation on the ground, but they did not consider exactly other associated activities that exactly implemented by the contractors, by the project managers, by consultants, and so on, that is associated with the building itself or with the infrastructure. So from that point, the focus at that stage, they focused on the main part, which is the design. But with time, okay, they didn't pay attention to that yet, uh, which, I mean, differently we saw in Qatar that Qatar focused on both parts. So they exactly deployed the GSAS design and built, and at the same time initiated another system, which is the construction management, that exactly looks behind all the construction activities during only over the span of the construction. Okay, so why other countries are not implementing this one is basically coming from that reason that those countries is still focusing on the design, and this is due to the booming of the construction sector in these countries. So exactly they focus on the main part. But I believe over the time, with the knowledge and with the upgrading the systems or the rating systems for the design and to incorporate some of the construction activity. And I already saw some of these examples, which exactly promising that those standards may move forward with such standards for the construction management in the coming years. But um, I believe that it is about the ambition of the relevant authorities exactly to look behind that one or to force the companies to include that part. But regardless, if the rating systems in their design but incorporate some credits for the construction practice, I think that's not bad. And this is also good movement towards maybe a comprehensive construction management practices in the future.
Talking about the ambition and the coming few years, and this is a typical question I ask to all my guests. How do you see the future of climate change, sustainability, construction management in the region in the coming 5 and 10 years?
Um, I believe that there is a good movement, a good progress on sustainability implementation, especially in the region. We can see the commitment of the GCC countries in terms of sustainability, in terms of even in adaptation practices. That's really promising. And we saw a lot of examples, for example, like green Saudi Arabia, a green Middle East initiative. We saw that in Qatar, something similar. We saw in the United Arab Emirates and other GCC countries. You can see also their commitments for the UNFCCC uh, uh, through their NDCs, National Determined Contributions, to exactly reduce the carbon emissions. So exactly with the commitment to the UNFCCC platform or program, the countries are going to achieve more. And sustainability is also progressing very well in this area. with that, you can say, with that energy and that it's, you can say, excited spirit. So to continue. In the coming years, I expect that more achievements will be there on the ground. Specifically, we see in the GCC, we can see in Qatar, in United Arab Emirates, in Saudi Arabia, a lot of achievements in this regard. And so far, we can see that they are deploying the sustainability for more than a decade, and they already achieved a lot in that part. And exactly, some of them already, you can say, estimated how much carbon emissions have been reduced or saved, and how much energy saved, how much water saved, and so on. So, keeping the same spirit, I'm sure that the sustainability and resilience will be exactly, progressing very well.
Dr. Muhammad, thank you so much for being with us today and being my guest. It has been my pleasure. And sure, this will not be our last conversation and discussion on the same topics. So, first of all, thank you very much for accepting this invitation. And I wish you a very good night ahead. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Waleed. It's my pleasure.
Thank you.